everyone, it's me, Cici, and I want you to take a look at this swatch of knitting right here. I whipped this up on my knitting machine yesterday, and it has a little bit of a secret. This is actually more than one swatch stitched together. Now I want you to guess how many swatches are stitched together here. Are you having trouble guessing? Okay, come a little closer. Okay, now how many swatches do you think that this is comprised of? Some of you might be guessing two just because of this like really tight looking row right here. But what if I told you that this is actually 3 swatches all knitted together? Today I am going to show you how to join your knitting in a way that is essentially seamless. All right, so I made up a few more swatches here. I've got 2 10 by 10 swatches here, and I've got one that's 18 stitches wide, and I really was not counting how tall this one is. So I'm gonna start with the easier one, which is joining on the side right here. Now, in order to understand how we're doing this, we need to take a look-see at the actual anatomy of the stitches here. If you look at the knit side, you can see that there are these very clear ditches that fold really easily and leave a nice clean edge. And if you stretch out the work, you can see that in every single one of these divots are these little bars. So all of these bars right here are actually what we are going to be using to attach our work together. So your first step is going to be taking some matching thread, and I am going to use contrasting thread just so that it's a little bit easier for you all to see. We're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna say, to be safe, go with 4 times the length of the side that you are trying to stitch together. Take your tapestry needle right here, and we're gonna thread it super quickly and pull it through just a little bit. I'm not gonna tie a knot at the end of this. I'm just going to leave a little bit of a longer tail, and that we will weave in at the end. So now we're gonna go ahead and take our 2 pieces, and I like to align these pieces so that sides with matching casts on and bind-offs, cast-ons. I like to align my pieces so that the sides with matching bind-ons and cast-offs are in the same place. So from there, we're actually going to skip this first row right here. You see how there's technically a row on the side, but it's a little bit messy? We're actually going to skip that and work into the ditch right next to it. So not this ditch right here, but this ditch right here, so that we can start off with a nice clean row. So I'm going to go ahead and find that very first space between this bar right here, the first bar, and our cast on. Slip my needle right through there and leave a nice long tail, at least a couple inches. We're gonna put that down right there, find our second piece, and find the exact same corresponding ditch on this side. Not this first ditch right here. This ditch, the next one, the second one, before this first clean row. So right here. We're gonna find the same corresponding spot between the first bar right here and the cast on, and send our needle in backwards through the work. Pull that through, make sure it's nice and tight. And then from there, you're gonna see another hole right here. Do not go through there. You're going to go through the next hole right above this second bar right here. So thread your needle backwards through there, like so. And then from there, take a look at your first piece of work, find the hole where you first threaded your needle through, and thread it backwards through there again. And from there, it's very straightforward. You just repeat the pattern, skipping the hole and going above the next bar right here, pulling through, and then finding the hole where you last sent your yarn through on the other side, going in backwards through there, and coming back up through above the next bar. I'm going to continue this pattern and meet back up with you when you are done piecing together these first 2 pieces. So we're approaching the top here, and we're just gonna do these next 2 bars quickly, and that will be the top of the work. We've also made it to the top on the other side, so I'm just gonna feed my needle through one more time going into the back, and then you can take off your needle. Now, this doesn't look incredibly seamless yet, but this is where the magic happens, because you're gonna take both ends of your yarn like this and just gently pull them tight. Might take a little bit of adjusting, and you can also tighten as you go if that is easier for you. I just love the magic of pulling it all together and seeing it all just like suddenly become seamless. Look at that. That's beautiful. And even with the contrasting color, you can barely even see where that stitch happened. And the most important tip here is to make sure that your V's are facing the same way. So this side, the V's are facing kind of upwards, making little hearts like that. Same thing with the other side. They are also facing upwards, making little hearts like that. Now, if the side that I were mending, if one of the sides were facing downwards, like this row right here, and the other side were facing upwards right here, it wouldn't be as clean of a mend, but it would still be okay. Now this is going to be a little bit more tricky because unlike when we were seaming one of these sides together, the finished sides don't have those neat ditches for us to work into. You see, if you fold your knitted work in half, there's no clear ditch for the stitches to hide in. So what we're going to have to do is we are actually going to have to try and duplicate our knitted stitch, which is not that bad. So go ahead and cut a piece 4 times the length of this edge, thread your tapestry needle, and we will figure this out. So knitting is beautiful in its simplicity. It is literally just a bunch of interlocking loops. If we stretch out our work and take a really good close look at it, we can see that all of these rows are really more like zigzags and they kind of curl up a little bit. So a piece of yarn in a row will loop up and around the loop above it, and then on the other side it will go down under the loop below it and continue that sort of zigzag pattern all the way across. Now luckily for us, this is not incredibly difficult to replicate. So what we're first going to do is we're going to look on our side and find our first upward facing V, and by upward facing I mean the ones that kind of loop up and around back like that, kind of like a heart. We're going to find the highest row with that, and we are going to stick our needle in from back to front like that. Pull your yarn through, leaving a couple of inches for tail, and then take your second piece and make sure that your edges are aligned the same. So if the edge that we are starting with has an upward facing V, this has to have an upward facing V as well. Now what we're going to do is we're not actually going to go in through there, we are going to go back behind this, and we are going to go back behind the whole loop, not just one half of it. Pull all the way through. And when you finish it, make sure that it's not too tight because we are essentially going to be making stitches here. So from there, find where your needle first entered your work and just stab it right back through. Go ahead and pull that through and you will see that you made your first V here. Now this is a really tricky balancing act. In fact, even the one that you saw in the beginning of the video, I wasn't super happy with, just because the tension is so difficult to get right. If it's too loose, you won't get those really contrasty V's. It'll be more of like 2 parallel lines. And if it's too tight, then it'll become visible against the rest of the stitches. So we're going to continue that pattern, poking up through the upward facing ditch, all the way at the top. Slipping back behind both of these bars. Pulling through. Getting it to a tension that matches the other stitches. And sending it back down and through. And one nice tip if you are trying to get these stitches to be the right tension is to pull like diagonally as much as you can. So instead of like slipping under both bars, like I said the first time, which is kind of like the easy way, instead what you want to do is poke through the downward facing side and pull on a diagonal as much as you can, and then send it up through the downwards facing ditch on the other side, and be very gentle pulling that through. I'm going to speed this process up a little bit on my end, and I will catch you all when you are done with this row. Alright, so we are finished with that horizontal seam, and I switched colors halfway through just to show you what it would look like if you were trying to make it invisible. And I also started joining from the row below, because if you take a really close look right here, you'll see that because this is the cast on row, the stitches are twisted. And you can tell that because one side of the stitch kind of overlaps over the other side of the switch, whereas with this, you don't really get that overlapping here. You have those clear ditches. And not to toot my own horn, but even before blocking, this looks pretty good. Now I am going to quickly weave in my ends and block this. This video is not about blocking, but it is basically a process of just washing your work and getting the fibers to relax a little bit more. And that will make these seams look even better. And I will be back in probably like an hour for me, but just a few seconds for you. Whoa, fun transition! And this is the final result after blocking. I'm gonna be honest, I think it actually looks worse after blocking. A couple of the parts still look a little bit tight. That's actually not the vertical seam though right there. That's just a really loose stitch. But that's all I got for you today. I hope you found this video helpful. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Goodbye!